Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your undead hosts.
I am John.
And I am Cece. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. Almost fucked that up. So yeah, today, besides the undead shenanigans, it's gonna be a bit different since we don't usually review movies, but we needed a bit of extra material, and it has now become one of the most successful anime movies, at least outside of Japan. So what the hell? First up in this episode will be our loose impromptu discussion, let's say gush fest, I assume, on Dragon Ball Super Broly. And after that, we'll join the not only walking but also singing dead with our review of Zombie Land Saga. So don't crawl into your cozy nerd graves just yet. We'll be right back. I don't know how long ago it was that they announced they would bring Broly back to the Dragon Ball universe and now make him canon. But I remember when I heard that, I was like, oh god. Because if you haven't seen the old movies that he starred in, which were like 3 Dragon Ball movies and which were not canon, like all the old Dragon Ball Z movies were not part of the main story. They were not cooked up by Akira Toriyama. He didn't really have a hand in them. So they were like considered like kind of could have happened in that universe, but did not really happen in that story, or it's difficult to fit them in there. So yeah, he was one of the original characters there and original antagonists. And yeah, it was like this super brutish, giant-sized Saiyajin, super strong.
He's just a giant meat man, really.
Yeah, that was yelling a lot, especially Kakarot's name, Son Goku's name, and laughing, and no pupils in his eyes, and whatever, going berserk. And he was a very dumb character. He was like the epitome of 90s edgelord anime fanboy character, like something a 14-year-old probably cooked up in his basement and was like, that is what cool is, right? So let's say the shield hero of the 90s, so to speak. So, damn! Right with the heavy blows from the get-go. Anyway.
Jeez.
So yeah, he was kind of like the butt of many jokes for a long time, because he was one of the dumbest Dragon Ball characters out there. But now we got a new Dragon Ball series with Super, and we got a few new movies, the first 2 kind of being recapped in the Super series then. And then after that series wrapped up, which both of us liked, we reviewed that show in episode 53 of our show, titled Hail to the King, because Goku is the undisputed Shonen King. Anyway, so yeah, that show wrapped up, and kind of quickly they announced, oh, there's going to be a new movie that's maybe going to be a bridge to the new series that's also probably going to happen. And that movie turned out to be titled Dragon Ball Super Broly. So it was pretty clear, okay, they're going to bring Broly back and probably now fully integrate him into the Dragon Ball universe, storyline, canon, whatever. Because the newer 2 Dragon Ball movies, Battle of the Gods and Resurrection F, were also canon, pretty much.
Mm.
Even though, the now canon stuff is the retold version in the series, I guess. But anyway, at first I was like, oh my god, how are we going to do this? This is one of the dumbest characters. Like, they need to rework so much, the origin story alone, because he's in the original version of his character, the reason why he is such a weird, angsty teen and then such an angry berserker is he got scared because Goku was next to him in a crib as a baby and cried too much, and that's why he got upset and mad at Goku. And to quote Vegeta from Team 4-Star version of Dragon Ball Z Abridged of that first movie, he's so cool, but that's so fucking dumb. And can't agree more. So they had a lot of work to do to make this character work, even by Dragon Ball standards, which are not super high. Dragon Ball, in general, is a kind of pretty dumb show, with a lot of ridiculous hijinks. But, they're at least most of the characters are in a way enticing and have an interesting twist to them, which Broly, aside from being super strong, didn't really have. And if you want to make like a whole full-length movie, and don't get me wrong, this is a long-ass anime movie. It's running at 1 hour, 40 minutes. For a shonen action movie, that's ridiculously long. Most of those mostly run just an hour, right? Maybe 70 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, some of the older movies were like way shorter. They were more like a double-length episode rather than a feature film.
Some of the old Dragon Ball Z movies only ran 45 minutes. I mean, yet, but we got other shonen action movies like Naruto movies, Bleach movies, but even those only were like maybe 3 anime episodes or something. And even compared to the 2 new Dragon Ball movies, this is this is like full feature-length anime movie. And I heard about the running time before, and I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be just fighting? I mean, I probably won't mind, but that seems like a lot. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fighting in this movie. A ridiculous amount, even for Dragon Ball standards. But surprisingly, there's also a lot of cool background story, character work in there. And a lot of that actually goes into Broly's character, which I did not suspect and was like happily surprised by. I don't know, how did you feel about that? Like, did that catch you off guard?
Yeah, a little bit, because like you were saying, it's like, okay, they're gonna canonize Broly. What could they possibly do to take this giant meat man who just yells and throws his fists around angrily and, make him interesting and, bring him into the main story? And it's like, oh no, they actually did pretty good. I feel like they made him surprisingly a pretty sympathetic character too.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, let's get into the story of this movie. You can't spoil too much when it comes to Dragon Ball's story, because it's still, even the places they go, it's kind of basic. So I think we're gonna make this kind of a spoiler review. So if you don't want to know anything about this, maybe like, I don't know, listen only with one ear. I'll try to avoid the most heavy stuff, but I won't guarantee anything. So yeah, this starts out basically with a flashback to the time before planet Vegeta's destruction. So we see like the days of, like, just about the time that Frieza took command over from his dad, from King Cold. He's about to take over the army and gets introduced to the Saiyajins, or Saiyans. I guess I should stick with the Americanized version, since we're an English language podcast. But yeah, so he's about to take over the reign, and yeah, it's kind of that time frame, and everyone who knows Dragon Ball knows what's gonna happen. What's looming on the horizon. Like, as soon as he has full control and power, Frieza is, because he is not really fond of the Saiyans, and because he is kind of a bit afraid of them, that they might go like against them in full force at some point. It's a mix of both. So he decides to annihilate them as long as he can. Yeah, so that's like looming on the horizon. Aside from that, life is still pretty nice on planet Vegeta. You see, I don't know how that was regarded by the most hardcore fans, but they walk a lot of the stuff back about the Saiyajins being like, in general, these super, like, warrior tribe asshole people, which they were kind of made out to be in original Dragon Ball Z, like from top to bottom, like only being in it for pride, glory, pretty much what Vegeta is when he gets introduced, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of make them like these normal, kind of rough, but also pretty sympathetic people with normal lives in this. And we see Goku's parents. We see Bardock. We see his mom, I think for the first time. Have we seen Gina before?
I think in one manga called like Dragon Ball Minus.
Yes, I think that is where they take a lot of this story from.
Yeah.
And what might also be where some people maybe have gripes with the story that is brought into the movie, because The origin story that Goku now has is closer to Superman than it was ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, it was already very close to Superman. But, him being sent from a dying planet. In the origin story, he was sent much earlier to Earth than the destruction of the planet happened. He was sent there to take it over, to conquer it. And he, in his early days on Earth, he hit his head. And that's why he became a normal human being and, actually grew up to like Earth and be a part of that, led a normal human life. And didn't even know that he was an alien until, Dragon Ball Z happened. And in this, it's actually Bardock has a very bad feeling about, or actually gets a clue that Frieza's planning to destroy the planet. And he decides, no, I'm going to send my child off to a different planet to save him. And that's not how the original story worked. That's not even how it worked in the non-canon Bardock movie. I don't think so. I think Goku was already on Earth there, already sent there. So they walked that kind of back to make all the parties, or at least Goku's parents, more sympathetic and be like, more human than these ruthless assholes who only care about fighting. That was fine with me. I don't know if other people had problem with them changing that, because I agree it's kind of a bit of a different thing and less cliched in the original version. But it's just more enticing to see Bardock be more of a cool badass than a downright asshole, I guess. Mm. And, the rest of the Saiyans too, because all of them are just normal, maybe slightly barbaric, but, normal warrior type people. I don't know, how did you feel about this version of Goku's origin story?
I mean, you're right about it basically being for real Superman now. Mm-hmm. But I just liked it a bit more because of all the things you said, because it makes the Saiyans seem a bit more like, yeah, they were definitely under King Cold's and Frieza's heel probably a lot more fiercely than was originally shown in the older material. Also, I'm kind of glad Bardock wasn't as much of a precog as he was in the original movie, because I thought that was pretty dumb. I'm not gonna mince words. I thought that was dumb. Since you've come here to destroy us, now you're cursed to see your own destruction. Shut up.
True. So I like this version now. I think it's cool. And I mean, not all of them are cool guys. King Vegeta is still a giant asshole. Even more so probably because children in on planet Vegeta are like born in these birthing pods, which is also pretty like the way they are born is like pretty close to how children are born in Man of Steel. I think even more Superman correlation here. And yeah, he goes up to the birthing pod of his son and says, "Oh, this is like I'm glad he's such a strong warrior." And then it turns out there is a child with even stronger readings. And the scientists initially believe that it's like a glitch because he's like too strong, and his readings don't stay that high all the way through the tests or something. And of course that kid is Broly, but King Vegeta is very bothered by this. And so he decides to send Broly to the frontier, to an outlying planet alone, like that baby child kid, to fend for himself, because he doesn't want any competition for his son, logically, right? Anything that threatens his son's claim to the throne. So since Broly might be more powerful, even though King Vegeta doesn't want to admit it, he don't want to risk that either, so he sends him away, even against the will of Broly's father, Paragus, who decides to take matters in his own hands. So after Broly is sent to the frontier planet, Paragus goes after him, even if he's not allowed to. Like, he basically defects from the Saiyan army and decides to go after Sun and save him or protect him, and then fights him on this planet. And it is assumed they are staying there. And then all the stuff with Frieza happens and destroying the planet, and Goku is sent off to Earth. And that's basically, okay, now we're in the now time, and that's where the movie actually starts. And I think at this point we're already 20 minutes in or something. So a lot of time is spent into building up all of this. And that's, I think, was a pretty good choice. Like, seeing like this extended version, and maybe a lot of people haven't even seen yet, like this extended look at Planet Vegeta, all the Saiyans. Like, we see I really like that we see kid versions of the main, like the trio of bad guys, like Kid Vegeta, Kid Raditz even.
Kid Raditz is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just, he was a little shit even when he was a little shit. Yeah. So, and not as old Nappa.
He had hair.
The magic is real. So yeah, good stuff there. Good stuff. A lot of fan service, and so it was nice, getting a look into that. Seeing young Frieza too, like all of that shit. Good stuff. They didn't really have to put in there, but they put in there. And the screenplay is written by Akira Toriyama himself. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a real Dragon Ball story, just a real continuation of everything, and created by the master himself. So yeah, and I think you can feel that in that movie. This feels like, okay, feels like something crafted from his fans.
Mm-hmm.
In tone, in world building, character building, everything. That felt, this is old school Dragon Ball Z stuff. Yeah, and then all of this happens, and then we make time jump right after the end of Super, after the Tournament of Power. And, the usual stuff, Vegeta and Goku fighting. Let's just training fights, bashing each other into the ocean. I don't know how and what happens next, and I don't need to go like through the whole movie in detail. It's been a while since I've seen it now. But I think the Dragon Balls get stolen, or some of the Dragon Balls get stolen from Bulma's lab. She was accumulating them to wish herself a few years younger. Not too many years. Because if she would wish herself too young, her woman friends would wonder if she got lifted or something. A little bit of nip and tuck here, and she doesn't want that.
Only 5 years.
Only 5 years. And we also get a great correlation with what Frieza wants to wish for later. In that regard, which I won't give away, but the payoff for this setup with Bulma is fantastic. I died in the seat in the movie theater when that came up. So yeah, good stuff. Really great. So yeah, so that's happening. Frieza's army have stolen the Dragon Balls for a specific wish, and the gang is wondering, what is he gonna do with that? Whatever he's gonna do. It's not going to be good, so let's try to find the rest of the Dragon Balls and try to find Frieza and try to see what he's up to. I think that's the gist of it, how, those parties finally converge at some point. And in the meanwhile, we have some of Frieza's army, I think by accident, stumbling over the planet that Paragus and Broly ended up on in the past. I don't know if they catch wind of a distress signal or just go there, happen to land there by chance, something like that. Anyway, but yeah, they get there and those two appear, and the two members from Frieza's army decide to bring them because they're Saiyans and everything. And Paragus is kind of a smooth talker, I guess, at least to some extent. So yeah, Broly has grown up to be a big man. Not as big as he's gonna get later, but still big guy. And yeah, they said, okay, he's gonna be a powerful addition to Frieza's army and everything. So these two new members, I haven't even mentioned their names yet, and they're two of the best new additions to this universe, in my opinion. Like Chilai and Lemo, I think. Was it
yes.
Lemo or Lemo? Lemo. They are great. Chilai is like this spunky young woman, and Lemo is like this older. I mean, he's supposed to be old. He doesn't really look that old because he's an alien. He doesn't have gray hair or anything, but he's supposed to be like this veteran warrior in the Frieza army, I guess. But not really that powerful, so he has survived until now because he hasn't been sent into battle that much, I guess. But yeah, those two hang out together and like each other, and now they're picking up Paragus and Broly. Yeah, and then we get some introduction to them, and Broly trying to integrate with or interact with other people, which he apparently doesn't have much experience with, because the way he grew up was under the thumb of a very abusive father, as it turns out. Paragus is not a good guy, and he put a collar on Broly to control him, to control his power, and make him do things that Broly didn't want to do. And I was surprised to how, you already mentioned that before, how sympathetic Broly got, and how like sad they made his backstory with this. Like, it's not dumb anymore, it's genuinely sad. It's like, that you had a shitty life, man. Like, you could have ended up even worse. And he ended up, he's not like this weird, timid guy. He's in his normal form, he is kind of holding back and everything. But he seems from the get-go, he seems like maybe a bit, flustered and everything, and he doesn't talk much. But he seems like a genuinely good guy, like who knows right from wrong and everything. And it's really great to see him interact and become friends with Chila and Limo. I really like those scenes. I think they were great. What did you think about them?
Oh, I love them so much, especially when they sort of sneak Broly away from the mess hall, and they're giving him snacks, and he's drinking water for the first time. Oh my god! Those three together, I think, were probably like the biggest stars of this movie. Obviously Broly, but Chila and Limo they're great. I love them both.
I would agree. I loved every scene that those three were in. I even wish that Chila and Limo would have played a bigger part in the final confrontation. I mean, they do play a part, but they take a bit of a backseat to all the fighting that's happening. And I would have liked to see them play more of an integral role into some of the stuff that was happening. But, I'll take what I can get, which is two amazing new characters introduced in this movie. And Broly reintroduced, I guess, as a great character now. A genuinely great character. So yeah, all of that happens, and they are brought into Frieza's army. And then things happen as they must happen. When Goku and the gang come upon Frieza and his guys, when they have collected all the Dragon Balls and everything, Broly and Goku start to fight. And that's probably the second half of this entire movie.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's Goku versus Broly. It's Goku versus it's Vegeta versus Broly. It's, I don't know if Goku and Vegeta like tag team up on Broly. I mean, they form a tag team, a special tag team later on. But I mean, like a handicap match. There's a lot of fighting obviously in this movie. And this is the best Dragon Ball Z Super whatever has ever looked, in my opinion, in terms of fighting. The fight scenes in this movie are fucking bonkers. Ridiculously good. If you consider how much fighting and how much action animation is in this movie. Like, from the second half on, it's basically just punching and screaming at each other. That's it. And it's displayed in such an incredible, dynamic, fluid motion and direction. I was just pressed into the fucking seat in the movie theater and couldn't let go. It's a marvelous movie to look at. It looks fantastic. Like, even for the newer Toei stuff, which I think they like unleash, they go all out in their Dragon Ball and in their One Piece movies. At least those I've seen. Like, those have looked really fantastic for quite a while now. I think Battle of the Gods looked fantastic. I think Resurrection F looked fantastic. But this takes the cake. Like, this is the best looking, in general, not only the best looking action anime, just best looking anime I've seen in a while. Like, they have what is a bit different about this one is that they chose like a bit of a rougher character, a bit of a rougher drawing style in terms of character outlines.
I'm not really sure what adjective I would use to describe the character designs. They're a bit more simplistic. That's a good word, I
Yeah.
think. But I think because of that, they're able to do more of the crazy shit that they did, but they still look really great. I think the new designs were really good.
Yes, exactly. I wonder if they're going to take that over in the series in some way. But see, yeah, they seem more loose. They dismiss some of the line work in favor of fluid animation in certain parts. But the action is so dynamic that you never notice in a negative way. You notice that it's super fluid and looks amazing, but you don't notice that maybe some of the character lose a bit of detail, or at least not too much, that it becomes bothersome or something. And there are so many different, it's not like, okay, now we see the same angle of these people fighting each other every time. They always come up with something new to show during those fights. It's not always like, oh, now we gotta make that character crash into a fucking glacier again. I mean, that happens too, but, it's always from different perspective. There are scenes in the fight that are from a first-person perspective even, where you see everything from either Goku or Broly's perspective, and that shit also looks fucking amazing. Imagine that shit in VR or something.
Yeah, those first-person shots were like, this is wild.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, there's so much quick action animation happening that it definitely merits a rewatch just to be able to take it all in, because I think you can't on your first watch. It's just too much information on screen. I don't think it's like a detracting factor that was like, I can't see that you would be like, I can't see what's happening. But it's just so much. It's so dense. It's so quick. It's so powerful that it's a lot to take in, especially on a first viewing. So this is definitely one of those movies that's like, okay, you should watch this several times just to appreciate all the different aspects of the action scenes, because they're really well put together. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it's probably not going to get boring watching this several times in a row, because there's so many details there. And I really like that. And hey, it's even got good CG. What do you know, right? I mean, again, this is now a staple, in my opinion, of the Toei movies, because, Battle of the Gods also had great CG stuff in their Resurrection F, I think, as well, too. One Piece movies had that, too. There is, usually they make the very, very clever choice to only use the CG when the characters are moving quickly away or towards the camera, or there's a lot of spinning around, or the characters are in the distance, so you don't notice that there could be clunky movement or something. They found a good way to hide the detracting factors of the CG. These glaring signs that this is not hand-drawn animation. I think Toei does a really good job, or has done a really good job with a lot of their movies over the past years, of putting CG in there that just works and that is put into the right place of the action to make it even more thrilling. And they do that here too. There are very few scenes where it's like, oh, okay, this model of Broly just moves a bit too clunky or is a bit too stilted. Very few. I can think of 2 small scenes or something where it was noticeable. Everything else happens so fast and so fluid and so quickly, and there's so much camera work happening that you don't really notice the CG, and it just looks amazing, and it lends itself well to, like I said, the crazy camera pans. I can't say enough good things about the action in this movie. It's it's not a subject you could really go in depth on for an extended period of time. But I think if you like action stuff, the movie is worth enough seeing for that alone. I would recommend on that virtue alone to check it out, even if you're maybe not the most invested Dragon Ball fan. But yeah, there's a lot of fighting, and that kind of gets wrapped up in the end in a way I did not really expect as well, because it kind of seems like I think Broly's gonna stick around. I think we're gonna see him in the next Dragon Ball Super series.
I hope so.
Because, I mean, that's a spoiler, sure, but I want to talk about this, so we're gonna. So at the end, him, Shilai, and Limo are going back to the planet that they picked Broly up from. And they like basically gonna stay there and help Broly live a normal life. And Goku even comes around and sets them up with some neat stuff from Capsule Corp and everything. And he's like, hey, just, become stronger. I want to fight you again, like Goku does. Because he loves nothing more than a strong opponent. So yeah, I feel like Broly is gonna be back again. And I could not be happier about this, which is probably the most surprising thing about this. Like, if you had told me that I'd be coming out of this movie first feeling sorry for Broly because of what he went through and him being one of my favorite characters from that movie, and then two new amazing characters, and then I'd be happy about the prospect of him coming back in a future series, I'd have declared you insane. But I think Toriyama did a really good job at reworking that character and the whole character dynamic surrounding him. I'm really looking forward to the next Dragon Ball Super series now. I hope he becomes a big part in that and is not only a bit player. Because that would not really work with his power level. He needs to play like a kind of big important role and become one of the strongest fighters. Maybe he's saying at some point he doesn't want to fight anymore. I would understand that given his, origin and everything. But it would be cool to definitely see him back and evolve him as well. And see Chila and Limo again. And yeah, I walked out of this movie really happy. And I think I was not the only one. I mean, that movie made, I think, about 30 million domestic box office. And I think worldwide it was like something around the 100 million mark. Mm-hmm. Which is a lot. Like, especially for...
I think as far as anime films go, it's probably one of the best grossing ones in like a long time.
Definitely outside Japan. I think in Japan, Your Name is like still the biggest thing ever. I mean, let me look it up right now. So I can't see Japan here, but worldwide, at least, Your Name has 350 million compared to Dragon Ball Super's 100 million. So yeah.
I guess it's a distant second then, probably.
At least. But yeah, for a Dragon Ball movie, for a fucking Dragon Ball movie with limited theater appearance and everything, that is a big success. And I wouldn't have expected that franchise to come back in such a big stride. I mean, Dragon Ball never really went away. It was always in the zeitgeist and everything. Like, people were still talking about Dragon Ball Z because Funimation did a good job of like keeping those DVDs and that series in rotation, everything, bringing out new collections, new versions of everything, then Kai and stuff like that. So never really went away before Super happened. But still, it coming back like and doubling down and becoming such an instant recognizable anime thing again that everybody knows. I think that's great stuff. I mean, there are a lot of other shonen series I would say I'd like more at this point than Dragon Ball. But it's part of my childhood, and I'm so happy that it's still around and that it's, judging from this new movie, better than ever. So, yeah, good times to be a Dragon Ball fan, I guess. I mean, we got a great fighting game too, so yeah. I wonder what's next in store for this series. I'm more hopeful than ever that we get some new good stuff. I mean, we still haven't seen some of the other universes, because they didn't compete in the Tournament of Power. So, there's a lot of stuff could happen there. I don't know, but I'm probably more interested into what cannot be foreseen at this point. Like, what are some of the stuff that's totally wild is gonna happen in the next series? And I hope Broly is involved in some way. And at this point, I would be very interested. I don't remember if they actually mentioned that in the movie. I don't know if you maybe remember. Does anyone of the character comment on Broly's power being very similar to Kale's? Because in the timeline, she is the first Berserker Saiyan to appear now, because she was in the Tournament of Power. So I don't
think so. I don't remember that anyway. So that could be an interesting thing to bring up whenever Dragon Ball Super does come back.
Yeah. I mean, if she wasn't head over heels for Caulifla I would immediately like go to a place and be like, oh, I shipped that. So so we'll see if that happens. I don't know. I'd be interested to see like two Berserker Saiyans together, like at least or maybe fighting each other. Although I assume Broly is a bit stronger than her, but I mean maybe she trained. She got enough time, I guess, on her hands. So yeah, we'll see. That is also an interesting possible thing that could happen in the new series. Whenever that happens, that hasn't been announced yet. We don't know anything. We don't know if it's even going to happen, but it's pretty likely. But yeah, right now, if you are in the mood for more Dragon Ball and you have, for some reason, haven't seen the movies in theaters, check it out whenever it comes out on Blu-ray. Is it out on Blu-ray yet?
I think it's coming on Blu-ray in April.
There you go. So that's not much longer. And I definitely recommend you check it out. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic action movie. It's a fantastic Dragon Ball movie. It not only in terms of action, but in terms of character world, in terms of like giving you a lot of fan service stuff, a lot of stuff that you haven't seen yet in Dragon Ball, and a lot of the interesting history reworked and everything. I can like wholeheartedly recommend this movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great addition to the franchise, and yeah, I can't wait to see more of it. And I'm really glad that my favorite fusion is now canon. I think it's also good. I always liked Gogeta's design more than Vegeto's. I assume you're like completely happy with this one too.
I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is Frieza being reduced to comic relief.
Yeah, I mean they've kind of already done that in Super in certain parts, I guess.
But they kind of took it to its next logical step in this.
Yes. And I like that too. I mean,
he's such a shit heel now.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves all of it. But that's also like more appealing, I guess. I mean, what were you supposed to do with the character at some point? You could make him like into this, conniving, evil asshole, right? But he's not as strong as Goku anymore. So, and we know that. So it's like, okay, how could we wring more fun out of this? And he's being like, oh no, he's still Frieza and he's doing his shit. He is aware that he's not as powerful, but he can still be like a scheming asshole and have his fun with being evil. And I like characters like reveling in their own evilness because they know they're good at it deep down. I think that's a good thing. I think that's one of the things that I'm missing from the Marvel movies at this point. I would really like to see a villain there that just loves to be a villain because he's good at it. And I think Frieza is really good at being a villain that when time's up, he gets his comeuppance. He gets fucking ground into the dust, but he always gets up and gets back up to his old tricks again, only to get punched in the face again.
I mean, and I like the end of Super. He speaks to you like, dude, I'm just gonna keep being evil. Like, yeah, I don't care that you don't. I know my motivations are evil. I'm not justifying them. I'm just being an asshole. It's like, okay, all right, you do you, man.
Yes, exactly. You will never succeed again, but we can have some fun with that, and so do we in this movie. And like you said, yeah, it's hilarious the way they make him the butt of the joke many times over. And he still gets some kick-ass scenes in this movie. So the best of both worlds, definitely. Go see this movie if it's not in theaters somewhere around you, which I doubt it is. Maybe some special screening. But if not, check it out on Blu-ray when it comes in April or something. It's definitely recommended by both of us. Great movie all around, super entertaining, and even with its long-running time, I never got bored. I think it's a really tight package that tells an interesting, fun little Dragon Ball story with a lot of new character and some really, really well reworked character that was totally lame before and now is pretty damn cool.
Would you say so damn cool?
I indeed would.
Sakura Minamoto is your average, everyday high school girl. She has her own personal problems, her own aspirations, and she decides to follow her dreams. When she wants to make a large change to her life, she decides she wants to become an idol, like the girls that she aspires to be like. After seeing them talk on TV and saying, they're doing this to make themselves and their fans happy, and they just want to put smiles on everyone's faces. She secures an audition with a talent agency, and she happily rushes out the door to go to her audition feeling positive about what's to come when she's run down by a truck and killed suddenly. 10 years later, she finds herself somehow still alive, but not quite what she was before. She's a zombie now, and surrounded by 6 other girls who are also zombies. And they have all been brought back by a mysterious man named Kotaro Tatsumi, who is seeking to create his own zombie idol group? Zydal.
It works.
Zydal group to save the Saga prefecture in Japan with, just to reinvigorate and bring business and culture back to Saga with an idol group called Franshushu. And thus begins the Zombie Land Saga.
Are we ever clued in how they, I feel like they stumble upon the name Franshushu, and I didn't quite get what that is a reference to. Is it Frankenstein and something else?
Yeah, Franshushu sort of became a name that the girls sort of magicked up for themselves after Kotaro came up with the names Death Musume and Green Face.
Oh, right.
Good names.
They wanted to have not always a new name. I get it.
Yeah, so they sort of put their heads together and came up with that name. And I think...
Hey, I prefer Death Musume. Sorry.
Of course you would. Of course you would. You're the metal guy.
Yeah, that's why I like the first episode the best.
Oh, man. This show, everyone went into the show not knowing what the hell to expect because the preview videos were all incredibly vague. All of the overviews and, the initial impressions were just like, oh, Zombie Land Saga has a 93% approval rating. By who? And by what? And they kept wrapping it in this mystique, especially when one of the PVs was Kotaro's voice actor, Mamoru Miyano, just in his character's costume, trying to sell you on the vague idea that this show was built on. That it's still no one had any goddamn clue what it was going to be. So we go into the first episode, and in the first 5 minutes, your main character, boom, dead. Mm-hmm. Oh, it happens very quickly, and it definitely sets the tone for the rest of the show because it's
bonkers.
It's bonkers. It sort of goes to this place with a lot of dark humor because, the girls are all zombies. They're already dead. That's the point. That's the joke. No one gets the joke, but that's the joke.
Yeah. What's interesting is about them, besides the characters themselves, is that they are all from different time periods. It's not like they're all from our current time. Like I think Junko is an idol from the 90s or even before that.
From the 80s, I believe. That's when her rise to stardom was.
Yeah. And then we got Mizuno, was a pretty current one, as we learn later. And we got even some who are not necessarily idols. I mean, a form of idol, maybe in their time. We have this courtesan, this geisha lady. I forgot what her name was.
Oh, Yugiri.
Yes. We got her, and we got the biker chick Saki, who becomes the lead of the group. She's great.
Yes.
And I really liked her episode. I thought that was great. The exclamation mark question mark episode where where everyone looks annoyed into the camera and everyone's taking like 2 steps back. Great, because she was like in a girl motorcycle gang as a teen, and yeah, then died in a fitting way. But yeah, all of these are basically just forced in a way by fucking Kotaro, not so Kotaro, into like becoming this idol group, even if they don't necessarily match up together in the beginning. There's this one girl around that's still like acting very zombie-like, and we have no idea, even at the end of the series, what her deal is.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe 3 or 4 characters that we don't really get a good idea of who they are in the runtime of the show in season 2.
That's still something to look forward to. We need to know what's up with Tai. We need to know what's up with Yugiri, was her name?
Without saying anything, I think we kind of have an idea of what might be Kotaro's deal, but it is not elaborated on. It's there to plant the seed in your head. Oh, it's this. Wait, you can't just leave us on that note.
They drop a pretty clear hint, like right in the final episode, that makes you immediately understand why he does what he does, or it would make sense if it's true who we suspect that he is. Because it's linked to the background story of one of the other characters, and it makes sense in regards to how he acts toward her and everything. So yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say who he is, which we don't want to say here, but I would be surprised if it turns out to be something else. I mean, show can always throw you for a loop if it wants to, but I think it's pretty clear. And I think it would be great if it was that, because it makes thematical sense. So how is this show, the series structured, John? Like in terms of story and everything?
It's definitely like an episodical type thing. It's something a little different each week, I felt like. Especially since they sort of started off each week exploring a different genre of music.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really kind of cool, because I love
that.
You loved the first episode with the death metal.
I love the second episode with the rap battle too.
Oh, that one was great. I love that one so much.
Yeah.
Because the animation they got so animated. Saki and Sakura, it was wild to watch in motion.
Yeah.
This was
stuff.
Yeah, this was Mappa doing some work. But I sort of felt like at points the show sort of fell into kind of the same traps that other idol shows do, which is fine. And also I was hoping at points for it to be a little bit different, but at least as we're going along, the background of the characters, the ones that we do learn, at least are outside of the norm for what you would expect from this sort of type of story. So I feel like there's enough to keep you interested in that, because of the way the way the characters are revealed, who they are, their motivations, their backstories. So that kind of kept me on the hook. Because early on, maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, I was kind of not really sure. But it kind of kept me on the hook after that, when I started going more into who the characters actually are. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, they do enough interesting stuff with them, especially them being from different time periods. Like, there's some compatibility issues there. Mostly it's the like older girls being confused about new tech, but it like also discusses how in one set of episodes specifically, how fan interaction has changed, like in the idol world, how the ideas from one of the characters about what idols are supposed to be differs from another one. Like there's a big like blowout between Ai and Junko at some point, because they come from different time periods and have very different ideas about what idols are supposed to do, how they are to interact with fans and everything. And I thought that was very interesting, like taking a look at all the different ways that the idol scene has evolved and how the people have been treated and have acted towards their fandom and everything. I thought that was interesting stuff just from the subject matter alone. But the problem I had with this, the first 2 episodes made this show out to be like it was going into the direction of maybe something like Girlish Number, being like this biting satire, maybe more mean-spirited. And then it kind of becomes, like you said, this standard, hey, if we all pull ourselves together, if we all work together, if we are all friends, if we do our best, we can make this happen, and we can make everyone believe in our dream and everyone believe in their dreams, and yada, yada, yada. The old shtick, idols are the personification of dreams and can make people believe into something greater and all that, right? And I feel like, compared to what the show was setting up in the beginning, especially with the zombie-themed stuff, like, hey, idols, zombies, get it? The subtext that is not subtext anymore. I feel like that in the beginning doesn't really work with how the show is acting in the later parts, which is from a biting satire. It turns more into this love letter to idol stuff, and like completely goes away from criticizing maybe the shitty way idols are treated in this business. And I think that is a rotten business, and that has been talked about a lot. Like, the idol world is not a nice world. It's not a good world. It's very, very tough and very cruel, and a lot of the girls are treated very shittily, and it's not a good place to be in certain parts, depending on when you start, where you start, whatever. It's a very competitive field and everything, and it feels like this. And I was hoping the show would go more into that. Judging from the first 2 episodes, I was getting that impression, and then the show just turns into something that is like, no, this is an idol is something greater, something angelic even, that you should aspire to, and if you really want to, you could do it, and everything like that. And I don't know, I think those 2 parts didn't really gel with each other so much.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the things that disappointed me about the show. Like, I was hoping it to be more like all of the episodes being more in line with what the first 2 episodes set up to be. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of jokes in there that make great use of the idol tropes and like turn them around and on their heads and everything. And, the shitty manager, Kotaro, is in his behavior a shitty manager, and he is often, luckily enough, also the butt of the joke. And like you also said, Miyano is great in this, even though his shtick can get a bit annoying after a while, especially if you watch several episodes in a row, like him going over the top the entire time with his performance. It's great to look at, it's fun, and he at least made me chuckle once in every episode, or even laugh out loud, because he says something so fucking ludicrous and acted so weirdly in a certain part that it was just so out there that I just couldn't do anything else but laugh at it. But him screaming at the girls so much and all the time, and yelling dumb catchphrases and all that shit, it can get, especially if you watch several episodes in a row, if you binge that stuff, it can maybe get a bit grating. So I would say consume that show in an episodic matter, maybe on a weekly basis. Like John said, that's kind of what it is doing anyway.
That's kind of what it becomes in the middle.
Yeah. So, yeah, but there's enough worthwhile stuff in there, especially jokes-wise. Like, I think the episode, for example, where they do these different festival competition stuff, like with the mud race and everything. There's so many funny, like, little visual gags in that episode. Like, the frames can be very dense. I mean, we just talked about Dragon Ball Super, Broly having very dense action scenes. This show can have very dense gag-related scenes, where a lot of funny, little, quirky things happen in one frame, that you don't necessarily all grasp at the first viewing. So again, the show also maybe merits a rewatch in that regard, because there are a lot of little gags on the side that you might not notice on your first way through. And I think that is to be appreciated. There was a lot of work going into those scene compositions and making those, putting a lot of extra gags in there that didn't have to be in there. And I think a lot of them work. I think you have probably some of those as well that you really liked.
Oh, yeah. Like you brought up the mud one, and that reminded me of they go to wash themselves off, but their makeup that hides the fact that they're zombies goes away, so they immediately just jump right back into the mud, and it's like, well, I guess you're right back where you started.
Yeah. And there's like on the side, there's this thing happening with one of the elders talking to one of the jurors and everything, and it's I don't know, there are a lot of little quirky, funny things. Or one of my favorite gags is probably where they try to get some votes from the elder crowd of Saga, and they do this classic dance with them. It's all these elderly people who are like very bent over and stuff like that, and really, really old and not steady on their feet. And then the music starts and they go all out, and the girls are like, holy shit, those guys are energetic as fuck. What the hell? That was a great scene. Like, there are a lot of good gags in the show. Just if you want to go into the show and expect some good jokes, you will get that at least, aside from some great musical performances. But I think the musical performances are also where some of the show falls flat. Like John already mentioned, like the first 2 episodes had these outstanding 2D, traditionally animated concert scenes that look really good. One is a metal concert, and one is a rap battle. And MAPPA animated the fuck out of those. They look fantastic. And there are a couple of those during the course of the shows again as well, a bit on the shorter side. But I think the one where the Lily, the smallest, youngest member, if you can say that about a zombie, of the group, is singing a song for her father. That's great. That's well animated. And I think Saki's concert in her character episode was also really well animated. Every other concert, after they go back to doing basically normal idol concert stuff, is 3D. And the 3D stuff does not look good. Like, not at all, in my opinion. I don't know how it stacks up to stuff like Love Life that is also in CG.
See, when they first showed that off, I was like, okay, all right. I think I see what you're doing here. I think you're just taking the piss out of Love Live, because they use a ton of CG. And in the first series, it don't look good. It got considered, and I remember I brought this up because I looked back and did sort of a brief retrospective on it when I talked about Sunshine, because the CG in Sunshine is like head and shoulders above that in the original series. Here, I thought they were just kind of doing that to like take the piss out of Love Live and say, hey, look at us making fun of you. But then they did it again. And again. And then they did it a third time. And then they did it a fourth time, and I was like, oh, guys, it was cute the first time, but come on.
And I don't think I think it's not about taking the piss out of Love Live anymore, because, if they've done it in certain scenes and kept like the 2D animation for the big emotional climaxes of the show, I was like, oh, okay, that's what this was about. Or they wanted to save a bit of money for the important stuff. But that's the thing. They use the 3D stuff for the 2 most important concerts in the show, which to me makes no fucking sense. The 2 biggest emotional climaxes in the show are the concert at Saga Rock and the final concert in the I forgot what the location was called, but it's like the school's sports hall, whatever, where they play in front of 500 people. And the Saga Rock stuff is very important character-wise, because it's like the culmination of Junko's and Ai's storyline. For Junko, because she has come to grips with the idol scene having evolved and the attitude towards fans and everything having evolved, and she is initially not fine with that and not sure if she wants to stay in idol. And I has, a bit of stage fright because this is an open air concert, and boy, did she die a metal way.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like, I think it's really grim, but they also, they take it so serious that it's kind of hilarious, like, the way she died. Even though it's one of probably the most grim death in the show. Mm-hmm. And they show it in explicit detail. And are like, ooh, Jesus, I can understand why you would be afraid to go out there again. So, yeah. And those two in that concert, find together again and become friends again and overcome their fears and everything. So this should have been, a very important, emotionally engaging, visual, stunning performance. And then we get this fucking weird stilted anime girls puppets on strings CG, and it's rough. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you felt about it, but it took me completely out of the fucking series and out of the moment. I was ready to be with these girls, be like, hey, this is great. Okay, now you show your big performance, you show what you got, and then we get this fucking jank ass CG, and I'm out. I'm fucking out. It's like, God damn it, why did you ruin this? And that's the weird thing. After that, we get two smaller concerts with the great looking 2D animation. I'm like, why didn't you keep that for the fucking Saga Rock concert? What the hell? That is more important. I did not understand that. I like that the lightning turns them into autotune Vocaloids. I think that was pretty damn awesome. But still, it's like, God, why for that? Why not keep the great animation for those important moments?
I'd say, I don't know if the budget was running dry, but they had Cygames bankrolling this, so...
I don't think it was. I think if the budget was running dry, they would have used that CG, or it would have made more sense to use that CG on the lesser important episodes.
Mm.
But if you don't want to do it as Saga Rock concert, in the final concert of the show, that is definitely about all of the girls coming together, overcoming all the odds, overcoming the bad luck that has been haunting a certain character from the beginning. You go all out, you take out all the stops, you unleash your fucking biggest animation potential. You put your lead animators on this, put keyframes, everything in there, all of the stuff, right? Go full Sakuga. And they don't do that in the final concert. They go to CG again, which I don't understand. You wouldn't do that if your budget were running small. You would save the budget before this happens. All the other anime do that. If you got an anime that runs on a tight budget, the first episode that needs to rope the people in is well animated, and the last episode.
Mm.
Because those are your showstopper episodes. Those are your exclamation marks. And they don't do that here. And I wonder why. I genuinely wonder why. It's okay, did you want those fancy camera pans in there? Did you want to have the fancy lighting in there? Do you want to have a more synced up choreography that maybe would have not been so easy in 2D animation or something like that? But I don't quite get it. I genuinely get the feeling that they thought this looked good and would have looked better this way as a final climactic moment than if they used 2D animation. And that's just a fucking misguided outlook on the whole thing, in my opinion. I don't get it.
I really definitely agree, man.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. And I know some of you out there are probably like, oh, look, Old Man CC is yelling at the CG cloud again. Look, if that design choice doesn't bother you, great. If the emotional climaxes of the show work for you regardless, fantastic. I'm happy for you. I really am. But I can only judge the show from my perspective, and every time that janky-ass, dead-eyed, still to 3D models appear on screen, they just pull me out of the show completely. And for a show that banks so heavily on you being enthralled and gobbled up by that vortex of music and emotion, that's the shit that is the deal breaker and makes the whole thing fall apart, in my opinion. it doesn't make it fall completely apart. That would be ridiculous. There's too much good character stuff in here. There's too much good jokes in here and too much concepts that are really well animated. But it's like, hey, these are your hallmark moments. These are your big, important emotional moments. Make them look good. Make them look the best the show can look. And they didn't do that. And that was kind of a bummer to me. One of the biggest detractors from the show, aside from the thing that I expected this to be something else. But, you know, that maybe I misread some of the parts in the first 2 episodes, and that's how it turns out. And that's the smaller part. The bigger part is, hey, I was still, despite this being more of a love letter to idol stuff, and I'm not big into idol anime, I was in with the series in terms of the characters and everything. I like the characters and all of the stuff. But using that shitty CG in the most important concerts, I could not deal with that. I thought that was a bad choice, a really bad choice in an otherwise pretty good production. I wonder, did the emotional moments still work for you regardless? I mean, you had to deal with crappy idol CG before, so maybe you could look past that.
Gee, thanks. I mean, I feel like for the most part it still did, but I mean, there was one of the characters in particular, I'm gonna have to try and talk around this as much as I can, who had like probably one of the most interesting backgrounds, but her death was just like the weirdest. I sort of get it, but at the same time, it seemed like they were sort of playing it for laughs when.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. When they really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Otherwise, maybe I'm just a simple kind of fool, but I still enjoyed the rest of the show for the most part, and the awful CG notwithstanding, but you know.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that character. We don't need to talk about the death in detail or anything, but I think she's an interesting character. We're talking about Lily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Lily is an interesting character because she is she's a trans girl, not woman at this point. She's openly was a boy or born as Masao. I think it's later revealed was her identity. And she didn't want to be a boy. She wanted to be a girl and always felt like that. And that's one of the reasons why she is happy to be a zombie, because now she gets to be a young girl all the time. And, you know, one of her most daring, and that's what John is talking about in terms of them playing that for laughs, one of the thing that, like, drives her over the edge as a still living girl is her growing a beard and leg hair, and, you know, her having to face the reality of her body not wanting to be what she feels she is deep inside, and that's kind of driving her into a bad place, kind of. But it gets more ridiculous than that. But still interesting, like totally interesting that they would put that in there and so openly talk about it, like not only allude to this, but be like, no, this is definitely a transgender character. And that's the way it is, and that's cool the way it is. And she's happy the way it is. And I really like that. I thought that was a neat little aspect in the show that I didn't expect. And she's just a cool, adorable character. And the way the other characters like handle the whole ideal is maybe a bit mean-spirited. Like Saki is being an asshole, but that also fits her character. And it's not like that stays the way. It's like used for like a couple of jokes that are not really that offensive. But
that also might depend on who you ask. It
yeah,
also might depend on who you ask how they feel about the character, because as soon as they revealed that, a lot of people with really shitty opinions came out of the woodwork.
Yes, of course. They're always there, but those people suck, so who cares about them? But Lily is great and a good member of the cast. And like I said, Saki makes a few jokes after they learn the truth about her, because they think she, you know, is just a girl in the beginning and didn't suspect her to be a different person. When she reveals it, kind of matter of factly, Sakura's like, okay. But they're all totally cool with it, and Saki just makes some few dumb jokes at the expense of her original name, her birth name and her father's name, which I thought was pretty tame and pretty funny, actually. And it fits that character. I mean, Saki would do that. That's the way she is. But that's about it. Aside from that, the show is just, okay, no, that's who she is. And the thing I loved the most, which I didn't expect, was how Kotaro handled the whole situation. He's like, his response to the whole thing is great. She like, no, Lily is always Lily. She was Lily before. Don't annoy me with this bullshit. Like, this is who she was from the beginning. You are just all idiots because you didn't recognize that. And it's like, yeah, that also fits his character, but also great. Thanks, Kotaro, that you are this way for once. I mean, he has so many great scenes in this. I mean, in the beginning, you think he's really mean to the girls. He's a real asshole, which he is. But of course, there's a softer side to him. And let's not forget, before he sends the girl training in the mountains in the penultimate episode, he greets them with, Ohio dele. And I will forever be grateful for that scene. Holy shit.
Oh, this show's great. It's weird and it's dumb and it's stupid and it's bad at points, but it's great.
Yes, it's a mess at times and not all things work, but what is in there that works is worth watching it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I had a good time watching it. And I wish some of the stuff would have been pulled off better. And like I said, maybe go more the satire route than the love letter to this business model.
I wonder if they just sort of got scared in the middle.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to carry it that way. And they were like, no, we need to pivot this a bit. And then later on, they were like, well, maybe we can pivot it back. It's like, guys, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
That makes it, that's the sign of bad writing. You have to commit. Yeah,
that's a good suggestion. Like, it could be that they like walked into this being like, okay, we're gonna make this like scathing takedown of idol culture, and then after a while they were like, wait, who's watching this? It's the people who like idol anime, and they're gonna hate us for this if we are like genuinely being gonna be mean at this because
it's like the reaction I had with the ending of Love Live Sunshine. Oh, they're gonna walk this back. The school's gonna be okay. The girls are gonna be able to continue being Aqua. And I'm so glad that they committed to the school closing, the girls going their separate ways. I was like, great, thank you. Thank you for going in a direction that I was hoping you would. And that's what I was hoping for through the entire run of the show. And just kind of goes back and forth. And if it didn't go back and forth, I'd probably be like, okay, the show is fantastic. But as it stands, I think the show just kind of ends up being good, fine, good.
Yeah, fine. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. That's definitely what it is. But it could have been much more if they would have stayed the course that they set up from the beginning, or that at least that's what it looks like what they did. I think it could have been a much better, more interesting show, just in terms of the underlying themes and everything. Mm-hmm. And if they put maybe a bit more different musical performances in there, more musical styles, like they did in the first two episodes. At this point, it almost feels like the first two episodes are from a different show, kind of. And the rest is kind of steadily walking towards the standard idol, we're all coming together at the end storyline. Even though with the twist, with all the character background stories and all that stuff, which is good. So, yeah.
Well, apparently the Blu-rays pulled some Iron Man numbers, so season 2 maybe, and then we'll get the other character stories, and maybe they'll be able to go back and say, hey, yeah, this is what we actually wanted to do. I wonder. I can only hope, though.
Yeah, me too. I mean, there's still enough interesting stuff to get here. Like we said, Tai is still this giant question mark. And I wonder what's happened. We need a resolution to the Kotaro and the Sakura storylines, I guess. And Saga is still not completely saved, right? This is only the beginning. Kotaro said so much. So there you go. Franchushu still has a lot of job to do. I also like that the dog's name is Romero.
Oh my God.
Obvious reference to George A. Romero, the guy behind the Dawn of the Dead franchise.
It took me a little too long to connect the dots on that. When I did, I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot.
So there are a lot of in-jokes in there, not only for the for the idol fanboys, but also for the horror fanboys. I think the OP is great too.
It's a great song, and normally I kind of take issue with those OPs that overlay the sound effects over the song.
I know. I was wondering about that. Is it like, what is John gonna come down
But
on this side with this?
This was silly enough for me to be like, okay, I guess you get a pass this time.
It's got a kind of Saturday morning feel to it with all its weirdness and everything and its action beats. So it kind of fits to have the sound effects in there, I guess. So a small tidbit, I really like that the two heavy ass like death metal guys from the very first episodes become like the most hardcore fans of Run Choo Choo and turn up at every concert of them. It's really great. This is one of the things that work in this show. Like the world building is pretty damn good. Like making Saga a place with recurring characters that become fans of the idol girls and everything, and this becoming an actual world that these characters live in. And the stupid ass, dumb ass cop is always a funny returning character who's really bad at his job. Lot of fun stuff in there in regards to world building and character work. So, like we said, even if a lot of the stuff in the show doesn't work, or falls a bit flat, or they could have done more with that, there's enough in this show that is worth a watch, that is enjoyable, sometimes genuinely thoughtful and good, and has at least a few interesting things to say about how maybe the people who work in this business approach it from a different perspective. And I think, at least in that regard, it's definitely worth checking out if you're not like completely averse to the whole idea of an idol anime, which I wasn't like, oh god, I hate idol anime, but it definitely is not my cup of tea. So I wonder if I would have stuck with the show if the first 2 episodes weren't what they were, or wouldn't have been what they were. But that's how the show pulled me in, and then I found enough in the show where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep watching this, even though this is not exactly what I hope it would be, and the production is not always like up to par. The characters are fun enough, the story is fun enough, all of that. Miyano is most of the time very enjoyable.
He's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. He's the most crazy horror guy in this. But yeah, I wonder where they go with his character too, if we get a second season. So, can't pull that shit forever, especially if his origin is revealed. But yeah, I guess that's why he's wearing the sunglasses all the time. So we're certain someone doesn't recognize him. Probably, I assume. We'll see.
And he's also 10 years older at that point, so.
Yeah, true. But still, he might get recognized. If he didn't wear his sunglasses. But yeah, we'll see. I'm still looking forward to. I would definitely check out a second season of this, just to see where those characters are going. I mean, they got a lot of characters covered now, and I wonder how much they would do with the characters that already got their background story now. If they would even do even more with them at all. And if they don't, if it's just, the second season consists of them just going from bigger concert to bigger concert, that probably wouldn't be enough to keep me engaged. But if they do enough with the background story for Sakura, with the background story for Kotaro, for Tai, for Yugiri, whatever, and put some more crazy horror fantasy stuff in there. And I mean, we get a big setup, another big setup for the second season. The reporter who reported on their most of their concerts seems to getting closer to unveiling their secret, because that final scene with him is like him looking at the photos of the girls, like their original selves before they died, and he's like, none of this makes any sense to me, and it feels like he's gonna investigate that shit, and that could also lead to problems, naturally. So yeah, there's lots of interesting loose threads dangling in front of our faces for the second season.
I think one of the other ones is, how did Kotaro magic these girls back to unlife, as it were?
I mean, he has like a talk with this guy at the bar who we don't really know who is that yet.
Yeah.
I think that's also another X factor. So who's the guy? Is he related to one of the girls also? Might be, age-wise, could be. I have some suspicion. But yeah, that would be interesting to see what's gonna happen. And I think the I didn't really mention that, but I think the resolution to Sakura's storyline, why she felt the way she did after regaining her memory and everything, was pretty strong, because I think if what happened to her would happen to me, I would also be in that kind of emotional state. So that felt very real to me. It's like when the world has it out for you and everything, and you feel like you have like the worst of luck at certain days, and everything seems to be against you. If that happen constantly to you, then, you know, getting up again and trying to go there, it can be hard. I mean, the show takes the easy route out, kinda, because in the real world, you would probably need a lot of therapy to get through all of that, especially if you died and then came back. Zombie therapy, hey. But on an emotional level, it works. And if the actual concert where that emotional breakthrough happens would have looked good, that would have probably been a very, very strong moment. But alas, can't have everything, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, still an enjoyable show. Recommend it. Check it out. Maybe watch more than 2 episodes, because like I said, the first 2 episodes are a bit stronger or different from the rest that is to come. So maybe like 3 episodes and then see if that is still enough for you. But yeah, definitely very enjoyable show. Despite its shortcomings, I think both of us had a good time with it, and we're looking forward to its possible next season.
Hopefully. I mean, if that all sounded good, you can watch it on Crunchyroll or Funimation.
Right. Almost forgot that. Go do that. Check it out. And that is a wrap on the 69th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for a review index and some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Follow us on Twitter @AnyBrainFreeze. We tweet regular updates and fun anime-related stuff there. Leave us comments and questions on Facebook and our YouTube channel, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut!
See you next time.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
A story of romantic self-discovery for one girl and the friends who surround her.
And then we ninja in the night.